So for tonight's episode, I've got 3 new picks here on the comic book side. I like these all for different reasons. And again, I did look at these from a different standpoint. There's some speculation here, but there's also kind of just some general interest here too. All right, so our big speculation book for this installment is actually probably going to be Morbius #1. Obviously, Morbius, a lot of his early appearances, they've been skyrocketing in value. A lot of those are kind of outside of the realm. By you say, well, what do you mean by realm, Dave? What I mean is that typically in the Collector's Corner, we like to focus on things that you could pick up for $20, sometimes less than $20. That way, it's sort of like if you purchase something, you hold it long term, it goes up in value. Yay! But if you purchase it, it doesn't necessarily go up in value. You won't, feel bad because it's not like you bought a book that I recommended for several $100s and you're stuck with it. So the idea here is to pick up stuff, hold on to it. Maybe something might happen with it down the road. At the very least, hope it's something worthy and fun to have in the collection. So this is Morbius #1. This is from 1992. We have the Morbius movie coming out from Sony, obviously in association with Marvel. And I feel like that of all the Morbius books, this is good. This is the one that's still kind of within range. It's been fluctuating kind of wildly, kind of here and there, but I noticed there's still quite a few places like on Mercari and stuff like that, where you can get this book for $20 or less. A lot of the other books have gone up pretty high. One of the ones I've been trying and pick up a copy of for myself was it Journey into Fear or something like that. I think I'm saying that wrong. Anyhow, it's the first Morbius and Blade book, which at one point was within range and is now way out of range. So anyhow, this is going to be our speculation play for this evening. Morbius #1, a fun book nonetheless, but obviously because of the Sony film and the MCU connection, this is going to be your obvious speculation here is going to be Morbius #1. The next 2 books here.
What's Morbius #1? What have you seen the range for that right now?
Well, it depends. I've seen quite a few places on Mercari where you could get it for like $9 upwards to $15. If you buy it from the wrong seller, I mean, they'll say, oh, this is, if you get it graded, it's a 9.8. It's going to set you back, $40 probably. You know what I mean? But if you kind of shop around, you can pick up a decent copy of this, for, like I said, between $9 and $15 as of this episode's, live show. After the show, might go up. I don't know. But just of all the different Morbius books, like, obviously, his first, second appearance, forget about it. First solo story, you can forget about that too. There's also a early story where it's the Blade's first solo story outside of Tomb of Dracula, where he just happens to fight Morbius, and that's the one where I'm trying to remember the name of that book. It's like Journey into Fear or something like that. That book is already out of range, and it skyrocketed pretty quick. So it's funny because I don't recommend more Blade books on the Collector's Corner because they're going up pretty high. People are really excited about Blade. I'm excited about Blade too. But anyhow, between $9 to $15, like I said, there's still active listings like on Mercari and stuff like that where you can pick up relatively inexpensively. So that's the general range for that one. Now on the other 2 recommendations here for this evening, what I've got here that I've picked, I'm actually getting on the Mercari app just to make sure. Okay. Yeah, here's one for $11. There's one for $9. So yeah, you can pick it up pretty inexpensively. All right. So our second one I'm recommending for this evening is going to be Uncanny X-Men 222. This is continuing to follow along my logic that, obviously the X-Men are going to come to the MCU if Wolverine comes along with them. They don't try and sit Wolverine out, which would be the stupidest thing they could do. I've been highlighting really important, key, fun Wolverine stories, primarily trying to stick within Uncanny X-Men, but trying to find interesting picks. So this one is really kind of cool. This is a big classic battle with the Marauders. and another round of Sabretooth versus Wolverine, as you can clearly tell here by the cover. This is pretty early. I think this is like the third time that these two had fought. So this is, again, kind of interesting Wolverine history, obviously X-Men history, Sabretooth history. These are, one of your most popular villains and one of your most popular heroes that I do think once they come to the MCU, something interesting might happen with this book down the road. At the very least, it's a fun, cool X-Men book to have in your collection, a fun Wolverine book to have in your collection if you're a Wolverine fan. This book, you can pick this one up pretty cheap. I mean, if you buy it in a lot with other X-Men books, I mean, you're probably only going to pay like a couple dollars for this book. And obviously, we're not talking about graded. We're talking about raw. All these books, when I recommend them, I'm talking about the raw books, not graded CGC books. But, like I said, $5 to $10 I saw this one for. Relatively inexpensive, but fun. Now, the last one for this evening, I feel like this one over time could be a really interesting book to hold on to. This is Giant Size Invaders. And I totally missed the date on this. I think it was, let me look it up. I thought it was like around 1972. Let me double check that. Giant Size Invaders. Let's see here. I'm going to try. My apologies. Usually I have the dates on the books, and I totally dropped the date off of this book. So here's what I like about Giant Size Invaders number one. Number one, you can pick the book up relatively inexpensively. It ranges anywhere from, $10, $15, $20. Some places, it can go as high as $40. But typically, mid-grade copy, is going to run you about $20. Giant Size Invaders, this is from 1975. My bad, 1975. What's interesting about this one is it has, I think this is technically probably the third appearance of the Invaders, and the Invaders are the superheroes from World War II that fought during World War II. So you have Captain America teaming up with Submariner. We got Bucky on here. We've got the original Human Torch, which was a robot, and we have his sidekick Toro. This is, in terms of the Marvel comic book universe, a classic, heroic team, but they primarily were active during World War II. And what's interesting about this one is we get a reprint of Namor's, the Submariner's origin in the back. And what's interesting about this one too is when you start looking at key issues for Namor the Submariner, most of those books are like way out of pocket. Like, they're going to set you back a good little bit. This is actually considered an interesting key comic book actually for Namor the Submariner. But again, like I said, if you time it right, you can pick up a decent copy for $10 to $20. So if you're a Namor the Submariner fan, or you're interested to pick up some Namor Submariner books, this is an interesting one to pick up to have in your collection. And like I said, it's not going to set you back too much, so you can get this one, like I said, anywhere from $10 upwards to $40. But most of the ones I see online, they range from about $10 upwards to about $20.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that's gonna be all my picks for the Collector's Corner tonight. And then we didn't talk about this, but our next episode's gonna be another regular episode like we've done. It'll be Wednesday. It'll be on the 2-hour mark like we have been doing. But possibly after that, that's when the switchover for the show might be happening. But we'll say more about that next week. But again, like I said, the Collector's Corner, this is one of those segments that's going to move forward. So this might end up becoming like its own, own show, which would be kind of cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can kind of focus more on different things and different aspects of collecting. So